What's up, chess players? The World Rapid Team Chess Championship continues. The coverage. I have played this game in round number 4 against a very strong Grandmaster Andrei Orlov, and I have played as white the King's Indian Defense, the B3 variation, the same one I have played later on against Fabiano Caruana in the very same tournament here. And well, that was very instructive because up to some point, I had a beautiful position, a huge advantage, and then I have completely blundered it out. And yeah, the driver's seat was definitely black, the one who was in the driver's seat. So I was in huge trouble, and that was the first painful game for me in this event. And of course, that was very important in terms of team match because, well, this game basically decided the destiny of the entire match. So, but B3 is a very good variation. I can sincerely recommend it to you. C4 because, well, it's very solid and at the same time very active. So D5, you could see that I have a beautiful pawn structure here. My bishop is controlling the diagonal and this knight has to go somewhere. Knight to B4 has been played, knight to D4, now the second bishop is beautiful. I was enjoying my position so much, even though the engine says it's just a slight advantage plus 0.5 for white, but I mean, it feels so great, you have so much space. But it's often quite a big problem for me because I'm thinking, well, the position is so great for me, what can go wrong? And then something goes wrong and I lose the entire game. Knight c3, so far I was focusing on developing everything. A3, knight went back to a6 and now e4. And that is already an accuracy, even though it seems like, I mean, come on, I'm developing everything, I'm controlling the entire center. Why on earth this position is equal according to the engine? That is always a huge surprise for me, but that is somehow how it works. Apparently because I have some weaknesses here and I don't have enough time to deal with all of them. So as the engine says, I should have started here with something like rook b1, which was my idea at some point, but first of all I wanted to play e4 because that is a central move. Queen b6, now already you can feel some pressure here, but I have played rook b1, which is a very good move here, rook to d8, h3, another useful move, so I thought I have like, I don't know, 5 useful moves which I can make, like bishop a1, like rook a1, just finishing my development and eventually maybe f4, maybe after king to h2, although I have to be careful with that knight, of course. But all of a sudden my opponent plays e5, which is actually a mistake, but that is a key moment in the game, because if I make the right move, I have a huge advantage. If I don't, I lose everything. So please feel free to pause the video for a second, trying to find it, because unfortunately I failed here. The only moves that gives white the advantage here is taking en passant, d takes e, and my opponent immediately told me that after the game, but I was very upset with how it all happened. Said, well, you could have just taken on e6 and everything is beautiful, and that is exactly the truth. I somehow didn't want to allow him to open up the center. I thought he might take with a pawn and then play d5, but actually d5 is not even a move because I have so many attackers against that. Can play knight f3 immediately, trying to attack the d6 pawn. d5 is not a move, like I said. Even knight a4 was very interesting choice there. And if you play e6, e5, well, you always have to deal with those weaknesses. And here I can immediately take on d6, but otherwise the pawn is very weak. If you go back to c7 with the queens, and even e5 is a very interesting move, just destroying the entire pawn structure, and then you can attack those weak pawns. I have no idea why I didn't play it. It's so clear for me now that I look at it that d takes e is the best move, but I played knight to e2, which plunders pretty much the entire advantage, and now immediately I'm in trouble after the right c takes d move. My opponent immediately felt that he can overtake the initiative, and he does it. My idea was to take on d5 with the pieces multiple times, but I have so many weaknesses suddenly. If I take with e-pawn, then, I mean, this diagonal is very vulnerable. Bishop f5, attacking the rooks, and knight c5, attacking the b3 pawn, and pretty much everything is out of control for me. If I take with this pawn, then he has a c-file, probably. Yeah, that was the best chance still, knight to c5, but I mean, that is so uncomfortable, especially since you know just a few moves back you had such a beautiful position, and suddenly everything is away and you need to somehow shift your perspective from fighting for the advantage, fighting for the initiative, to fighting for survival, because that position is already much better for black. So I took here with the queen, which was my initial idea, but now bishop c6 is even not the best move. Knight c5 was even stronger, but that's good enough, because now queen to d3 runs into knight to c5. I've played queen to d1 back, but now still knight c5, and I'm losing one of the pawns. Both pawns are incredibly important for me, so no matter what, I'm in trouble here. I tried to, find some tricks, but I only made it worse with pretty much every one of my moves, so that was pretty painful here. Bishop e3, f3, but I don't know, I have so many weaknesses. I'm a pawn down, the c4 pawn is a potential weakness, because how do you stop a4? You have to play a4 yourself, but that is a waste of time, and you get a punch in the face in the center. I mean, that is very, very problematic here. a4, and now it's clear that I'm totally lost, but I was hoping to find some tricks, and at some point in the game I felt very optimistic again, even though I'm 2 pawns down here, no chances at all. But of course I want to save the queens on the board, to be able to find some tricks. Remember, it's rapid chess, not the classical one, so with some time pressure you can try to put some pressure on your opponent. But unfortunately my opponent had like 5 times more times than me. I had a little bit more than 1 minute against 5 here. So d5, he's just pushing the pawns, and I want to open up the f-file. I thought that is the only chance for me trying to create some threats. But of course, yeah, my opponent is pushing me away. Now d4, you can see those 2 connected passers are just crushing everything on its way, and I'm playing f5. My queen is suddenly very good, very well placed along this diagonal, just putting some pressure on the f7 pawn, and I want to open up the rook, and then maybe I can create something. Objectively it's nothing, but it's rapid chess. Knight to c3, rook to b8, queen to c4. I want to stay on this diagonal. Rook to c8, well, I'm happy for a draw, but nobody would repeat it more than once with me, obviously. Queen to a5, and now I took an f6. And here is the moment I felt that there might be a chance, because, well, first of all, here the knight on c3 is protected by the bishop, so he took it with the bishop, but now I'm not taking even on e4, which objectively was a better move, but practically I thought, well, here that might be interesting for me. You can't take as a g6 pawn back because the bishop is hanging. You can't go away with the bishop because f7 pawn is hanging. And feels like it's not that simple to deal with all of the threats. If you protect the bishop, you just run into checkmate in 2. And I was feeling optimistic, even though I have just 30 seconds on the clock. But my opponent, of course, he's a professional, he's a chess grandmaster, a very strong one, so he finds the only move that gives advantage here for black, but it's also completely winning, completely crushing. I hope you have found it at this point. If not, of course, pause the video. As always, the move is queen to a7 check. You can see that it's a very good move here. Queen to a7, not only it's a check, but also it's protecting the f7 pawn, which is the most important thing, so that after king to h1 he can just capture my knight on c3 and there is no checkmate in 2 because the pawn is protected. So I took on h7 with a check. I was hoping to at least get to the king to give a few checks, but it's absolutely nothing. Couldn't find anything, I don't have any time, so in a few moves here I had to resign. Here after bishop f8, no ideas at all. So that was the first loss in this tournament, and that was the last round of day number 1. It was 12 rounds in total, 4 rounds per day, and of course we had like 5 people for this 4 boards in our team, so everybody must take some rounds off. So, but still I have played 10 rounds in this entire event, so that was an incredible experience, and stay tuned for some more rounds to come, because I have also played against some superstars like Fabiano Caruana, so you definitely don't want to miss this game. That was the most amazing game in my entire chess career in terms of pressure that I felt, in terms of how it went, and the whole drama that happened in the end of the day. So, thank you very much for being with me here, and here you can see the round number 3 that I have won in style, sacrificing my queen. That was something incredible.